Hello, co-op members. I hope you will join me in welcoming our hosts, Christian Glenn and Scott Lobdell of Ed Options Academy. Between the two of them, they have nearly 45 years experience in the field of education. Through Ed Options Academy, they strive to support students as they meet their learning goals in their own safe and secure virtual school programs. They're going to give a presentation to you today, and then after the during and after the presentation, please feel free to put any questions you might have in that chat box, and then as soon as they're done, we'll go into Q&A and get through as many as time allows. On that note, Scott and Christian, please take it away.
Thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Christiane, and as was previously mentioned, I have been in education for over 15 years. Scott also has a wealth of knowledge that he'll talk about here in just a minute. I worked as an educator previously, and I've worked in a variety of capacities in Edmonton over the last 11 years, specifically working with our virtual academy and supporting students of all different kinds, and work with a lot of homeschool groups across the country as well. So we're excited to talk to you today about some of the ways that we can provide additional opportunities to your students, different ways that they can utilize virtual learning in their homeschool setting. And Scott, who is going to take over the bulk of our presentation, is going to talk a little bit about his experience. That he has just a plethora of experience, a wealth of knowledge in virtual learning, and is a great resource as you are either starting to explore the virtual learning options for your students or take it to that next level. He is definitely someone that has some great resources and tips for you. So he is going to take us through some information here.
Thank you, Christiane. I appreciate that introduction. Just so that you all know, even just a little bit more about me and my background. Basically, you know, I've been an educator for over 30 years now. I was with the Palm Beach County School District for 17 of those years. But towards the end of that career, I started working with virtual education. And that was in the year about 2001. And I was actually part of the team that created the first virtual program for Palm Beach County School District. But then I moved more into the private realm. And there I was able to help create even more schools and different programs across the country related to virtual education. Right now, I am the Director of Implementation and Consulting for Ed Options Academy. And again, I look forward to not only the presentation, but to your questions, because I think that's what we're really here for, is to really give you all the information that you need. I hope, again, that we can get to a whole bunch of questions that you all may have. And I'm sure that between Christiane and I, we'd be able to answer many of those questions. So let's go ahead and kick off. Let's look at our agenda here. We want to take a look at a short history of virtual education. Also, what does it look like? What does virtual education look like? Why it's a viable option. I'd also there are plenty of studies on why students actually choose virtual education over other methods. And number 5, those advantages I believe that are out there for homeschool parents. And then of course, we can jump into our Q&A. So let's go ahead and, as I said, let's get started with a short history. I know it sounds weird, but virtual education actually began in the 1960s with the University of Illinois, where they actually worked a way to connect students through computers so that they can actually do their learning. Now, of course, in the 1960s, the computers were the size of rooms. So again, this was very rudimentary, but it really started to kick in. In fact, our original company, which is now called Edmentum, but it was called Plato Learning at the time, was part of that, that beginning. So through the 60s all the way up into the 90s, when all of a sudden the internet comes about. And it's really where not only did everything on the internet begin to boom and all different kinds of ideas and of doing things, but that, of course, is where virtual education really started to come about. And generally, really towards the end of the 1990s. At the time, there were many companies who saw this as an advantage. There were many big companies that came about at that time, but also very small companies that wanted to start creating courses and even virtual schools to provide for a huge market towards education, from you all homeschoolers all the way, upwards to school districts, colleges, universities, anywhere where education was necessary, where these companies were starting to provide these services. Since that time, many of those smaller companies were bought up, creating, consolidating larger companies along the way. And really, as we approach 2020 now, is what we used to consider, and I was a very large, big part of that, was kind of like the Wild West. But now it's really starting to really get into a groove. And as the future approaches, we're going to see more and more students take courses online. In fact, every year it just continues to grow and grow, for the homeschool virtual market, as well, even across the board in all education. But because of the consolidation, and because there is a huge market, there's still enough large companies out there to cause competition. And as we know, in competition, that helps us all out as far as prices are concerned. So not only are there great prices out there for offerings for homeschoolers, but also many options. There's a lot of virtual schools, a lot of virtual companies out there that are actually creating more and more schools and/or courses to provide for the large market out there. And really, again, this is a huge, what I believe is a benefit, because you're going to have the ability to have many choices out there from different varieties. I mean, you have certain companies that will provide taped video of teachers. Others will have live teachers. Others will provide great curriculum, and that's very interactive. But there's definitely different styles about doing that. And so again, it becomes a benefit. But again, just like good consumers, it's a matter of going out there and really learning about these different programs that are out there. So what does it look like in general? Of course, this is a high-level look because, again, we don't want to get too in-depth because, again, we want you to have time to chat with us. But let's take a look at that high-level view of what it really looks like. Number one, all courses are provided via the internet. And in fact, there's the better options allow not only through a computer, but through all devices that actually can get the internet. So from students' smartphones to Chromebooks to laptops to the regular office computers, it doesn't matter, whatever can get the internet. Even gaming devices, right now is the ability for those courses to be offered to the students. Another great advantage for virtual courses is that everything is online. Not every company does that yet, but generally that's the goal. And many of the companies that I know, many of the schools that I know, obviously right now, everything is online. So that's no books to order, no printers even are necessary. The only exception there would be in some science courses. But even in science courses, the one benefit for doing things virtually is the fact that Many of the labs can be done right there at the kitchen table using things that you have at your home, or the labs are actually virtual and very interactive. So again, a huge benefit about having everything online. Now, I'm saying virtual courses, and there's also something, as I'm going to mention here, virtual schools. Let me tell you the difference between the two. First of all, there are virtual courses that you can purchase, but there's no teacher attached. You just get the curriculum and access to the curriculum. But a virtual school will actually offer both courses and teachers, so that you would actually have an expert in the field, in the area, able to interact with the student, and be their teacher, what we call teacher of record. So that's bullet number 3, virtual schools offering up certified experts, certified master teachers, not only those who know how to do it online or virtually, but of course know their material. The virtual schools that you would definitely want to work with are virtual schools that are considered regionally accredited. And the reason I go and the reason why I would say that is the fact that if your student, if your child is looking to move on to go to college, university, or other programs, then it's going to be very important for them to, if you work with a virtual school, that their credits count, that the diploma that they would earn would mean something, meaning that it only comes through a school that's actually regionally accredited, meaning that an accreditation agency came in and evaluated them and gave them their stamp of approval that they're regionally accredited. There are some accreditation agencies out there that are not regionally accredited, and I would stay away from those because they're not recognized. Their credits, if they say that from that school, their credits basically are not recognized by universities and colleges that really truly require that regional accreditation. And also, by the way, regional accreditation is done for both public and private schools. Most of your virtual schools are going to be considered private schools. Some virtual schools out there are considered charter schools, virtual charter schools. That means that they are actually public schools. Charter school equals public school. It's just that they allow them to function in a different way according to their charter approved by the actual, whether it's a school district or state. But a private school, private virtual school, actually does its own basic requirements for students to be able to graduate from them. But again, both can be regionally accredited. The one other thing in point number 4 here is very important, is that these virtual schools, you need to make sure, and I know that many of them do, but some of them don't, they offer guidance services, record keeping, and diplomas, as I mentioned. Of course, these are functions of what we know as regular schools. For homeschoolers, the basically general option is to enroll in virtual schools. And the great thing about it, obviously, is that the student continues to be homeschooled, meaning that they get to be independent. They get to work from home. There's no requirement for them to go to a building any place. The best virtual schools are going to also have a process of proctoring exams, but where the student can stay at home or maybe go to the library to meet a proctor or whatever it may be. But again, giving you, the parent, the option to have everything the way you're working it now at home, but have all the other benefits as well, as I said, guidance services, record keeping, diplomas from an accredited, regionally accredited virtual school. So why do we call it a viable option? Well, studies on the success of virtual education actually show mixed results. And a lot of these studies, what I've read over the years, though, there's an issue that they do not mention in the studies. And again, I've been doing this a long time, pretty much from the boom years of the late 90s, early 2000s. And the one thing I noticed is that schools will generally, in school districts, will generally take their underperforming students and put them in virtual education as a different option. Now, of course, there are great AP courses and tougher courses that students are definitely taking now, but really the market has been generally for credit recovery, underperforming students, alternative education, but even in those numbers, and I've seen this before, where we actually worked with a school one time that was an alternative school that had a less than 20% graduation rate. When they went to a virtual option, allowing really more freedom for these students and also a better way of earning credit, their graduation rate went to over 70%. Well, 70% isn't great for a regular school, but it did show a major difference for these students. So what it really comes down to, though, is really point number 3, is successful virtual schools have a few things in common. And this is really what you should be looking out for if you're going to look for a virtual school option for your child. Number 1, active online teachers, meaning these are teachers who are going to call the student. They're going to email the student. They can text each other. There's active communication and there's active learning going on. In fact, many virtual schools will turn to video conferencing like we're doing here today. So an active online teacher is key to helping out students and have them be successful. Also, number 2, and I think actually probably this may be, well, these all seem to me to be 1A, B, C, and D, by the way, but this is a very important aspect. Setting standards of accountability, meaning that there is not only the online teacher who is going to be involved, but also you, the parent, setting standards, setting something that, we're going to sit down, because another great option for virtual education, which I did not list here, is that parents are going to have access, that they're going to have their own login themselves so that they can actually go in at any time, 24/7, and see the progress of their student. So sitting down, and this is just one example of accountability, sitting down with your student, on a daily basis or even just once a week to go over what they've done. All right, setting goals for each week, making sure that they follow some kind of schedule that I'm sure that you all know as homeschoolers, that if you set a schedule, your students are going to be more successful because it gives them a guide, all right, to what they need to do. So this to me is a set standards of accountability that the school itself will work with you and even give you, whatever training it may be, give you the option of best practices kind of. Next would be clear instructions. I used to be a wrestling coach and a football coach in high school, and I can really get the troops riled up and I can get them out on that field and be excited to go. But if I did not give them clear instructions on how to play the game, they're going to lose. So it doesn't matter how excited you get about virtual education and that this new option that your students really want to do. If there's no clear instruction on how to do it, then they won't be successful. So an orientation that the teacher is giving them all the information they need to be successful, via email, via video, whatever it may be, there needs to be clear instructions on how to operate systems and what it's going to take for them to earn the credit that they need. And lastly, I've already kind of mentioned it under accountability, is parent involvement. Because the one thing that all the studies have shown for successful virtual education programs is the fact that you have to have an online teacher who's active, but you also need, if it's an independent situation, a parent who is on top of the situation, and then, or if it's in school, we call them facilitators. But for homeschooling, obviously, it's going to be whoever is the guardian parent who is there making sure they're checking in. It doesn't have to be that they're on top of them. They're not the teacher. They don't have to teach. You can help tutoring like you would do, if you have always done. If the student needs some help and they're just looking at you and you're standing there and you're good at math, go ahead and do it. But the involvement is going to be obviously key to success as well. Let me show you one example on the next page. Onslow Virtual Academy is in North Carolina. It was created by the public school district. But what they realized in Onslow County, that's where Camp Lejeune is, where the Marines are. And they had a vast number of homeschool students, especially those who had military parents. Well, the issue is that these parents are transient. They kind of move in and out of the area, and it became difficult for some of them to continue on providing this this homeschool education for their students. So they created a completely independent program. All right. And they started out with just about 50 kids that first semester, and they've climbed up to now they have 300 students for this school year. And again, as I said, they're all independent. They are all, and now some of the kids actually were regular school students who left to go do this option. And you'll see why on the next slide when I show you why students are choosing this. But the vast majority of these are homeschoolers who decided to join this program because, again, they saw the benefits of a program like this. The next point about Onslow is that they definitely keep the students accountable. What's really nice about their program is that the director has people they have teachers who are highly involved, a director who's highly involved, making phone calls, making sure that those students are staying on track, making sure parents are given all the information that they need, and because of that, results have been really fantastic. Their success rate, as it says here, it says district-wide success completion rate, is an 87.7. That's completion rate. So that means that of all of these, all these students, close to 90% are completing their courses on time. Now, beyond that, and I don't know why I didn't share that number, but their success rate is around 94, 95%, meaning that those kids are earning credits at that rate. So it's the numbers have been fantastic, and the numbers are beating actually the regular schools. Because they are a district program, they are required to take end of course exams for the state of North Carolina. But again, it's done virtually for these students. But what we have seen is great success in the two areas that the state wants them to be tested in. So in English and in both math, it says that they were, the virtual school itself was 67% proficient, meaning that they had a higher proficiency number than both the district and state averages. So again, when you're able to do a virtual program right, you're able to see success. So let's real quick look at why students are choosing virtual school. And this comes from many different studies that I've taken a look at, and these seem to be the top reasons. Number one, students like to sleep in, and I thought that was very interesting. But the studies do show that teenagers generally don't wake up, their brain, even if their bodies wake up, their brains don't wake up until about 9 o'clock in the morning. And so, being more independent for a virtual program, yes, the students know they can sleep in and then build their own schedule around it. And that really bleeds into number two. They get to work at their own pace and set their own schedule. Well, that sounds like homeschool. But again, a virtual program allows you to do that as well. Number three, they're able to pursue their own passions. Many different virtual courses out there, many different ones. So not only the typical English, math, science, and social studies, but arts, career-based, many different electives that are out there, sociology, psychology, interesting courses, that were developed specifically for virtual schools. So really students can, if they have a particular passion, can go deep into that passion, or if they want to just try multiple different things. So again, that is very important. And of course, what we've also found out in other studies is that students who get to pursue their passions are less likely ever to drop out from school or stop their education. They want to continue their education into college and even beyond undergraduate studies. Number 4, provide flexibility for teens with unusual schedules. And we find that all the time in virtual education, where we've seen students who are international tennis players. We seen Olympians. These kids need to do and pursue, which is really their passion, but in a sense that it really limits their schedule. So it's a beautiful way to work out unusual schedules. Number 5, work without distractions. And I think that many homeschoolers can appreciate that if they've ever in schools, in the brick and mortar school, there are a lot of distractions. But this way students are able to work without those. Number 6, they don't have a complete don't have to compete to share thoughts and ideas. Again, in a classroom of 30, 45 students, it's hard to do that. So again, another reason why I know many of you may have gone to homeschool, or if it's not a reason, it's definitely a benefit. But again, working with teachers, having that expert in the area, and they're able to talk back and forth with those concepts that they want to ask deeper questions. It's there, it's available to them. They don't have to deal with a teacher who's overworked. Number 7, easily communicate with their teacher. Again, I mentioned this earlier through communications, texting, phone, email, whatever way there is to communicate using social media, good old-fashioned telephone, then it's there for them to use. Number 8, access to courses they would not otherwise take. So again, this kind of relates to some of the other items on here, but the ability to open up and take many more things and find it all, the virtual school that I work for, we have over 400 semesters worth of courses. So being able to offer all different kinds of types of courses is going to be huge for the student. And the last thing I found, obviously, and I think this is in a lot of cases, reason why people chose virtual school or homeschool is their faith. And finally, let's take a look at the advantages for homeschool parents. Basically, what virtual schools, and I've mentioned some of this already, really versus maybe like correspondence courses, having textbooks sent to your home, whatever it may be. There's nothing bad about that. And I want to point this out. I do not ever want to bash any kind of forms of education. And the reason being is we're all different learners. There are students who love to learn virtually. There are students who love to learn in a classroom. There are students who love correspondence courses, and because maybe that's what they're used to or what they find they best learn by. But that's the beauty of education today, is the fact that there's so many different ways to offer education to students so that students can truly find their best way to learn. So these are just, to me, some advantages over, say, typical way of offering homeschool when you talk about virtual education. So number 1, everything is online. There's not going to be any boxes sent to the house. All right, and when you actually sign in and you log in, you pay for your courses, those students are going to be able to get to those courses right now with no delay. And as I said, everything is online, from all the readings and links that they can go to and everything that they need. It's going to be there. Number 2, working with an accredited virtual school. There's going to never be any need to teach any courses. I put that in quote because, again, I as a parent, I love helping my kids. In fact, I wish they would come to me more. I have a history and psychology background, but they tend not to come to me for those. They want to come to me for geometry or calculus or something like that. But again, I put that in quotes because you as parents, you can help to the level that you desire, but know that there's an expert. So if you have a child taking physics and that's just not for you, that you know that there is a teacher who's there and they're available to help your child with those courses. Number two, a virtual school, a public virtual school, private virtual school program, they're going to keep all your records because that's required of them. Number three, they're going to provide guidance services, not only help find courses and help with scheduling, but talk about college. All right, talk about setting you up for, when our SAT dates, ACT dates, and doing, giving you all the information you guys service department would do. And then lastly, a diploma. Now, this is kind of critical to what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about having being from an accredited school that they can offer, or who can deny you, all right, that the diploma is not valid, meaning that they accept it because it is from an accredited program. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to accept you because you have a diploma. You still need to go and meet their standards of whatever GPA, credits that you took, all different kinds of requirements from the university. But the university has to recognize that as an accredited diploma. All right, so it's basically one of the first steps towards getting accepted into university. Because if the diploma came from a non-accredited school, the university won't even look at you. All right, and unless there comes some kind of other special program, or community colleges generally don't require that. But if you want to get into a four-year college or university, it's exactly what is needed. Number three, an expert in the course being taught. Again, that certified teacher. Huge benefit, especially when they're involved with a program that requires them to be highly involved. And number four, cost savings. Again, because there's a competition out there, I have not seen prices of courses go up, I think, in the last 6-7 years. So there's still enough competition out there that a lot of these things are the prices are being kept pretty low. When you look at by course or full curriculum, generally you're talking about the $250 to $400 range for semesters, maybe even a little bit higher, depending on what school you go to. And then for full curriculum, I've seen prices as low as $1,500, and that would be the student is covered for a whole entire year, 12 months of learning, and as many courses that they can take, all the way up to $3,000–4,000. So again, if you find a really good program, and again, those prices, those are the general prices I wanted to give you that I've seen out there. And I think that, again, these are some huge advantages for you and your families. Now, again, just wanted to tell you real quick about Ed Options Academy. Ed Options Academy is one of these great private schools. Again, I work for Ed Options Academy, just to let you know that. But we are on your list of options. So again, you can check us out on your website. And if you all have any other questions, you'll be able to reach out and contact us. And in fact, my email address is right here. If you have any questions, it doesn't have to be just about Ed Options Academy. I'm here to help. And if you ever wanted to direct any questions after today's Q&A, there it is, so you can write that down. So I am done with the presentation, so it is definitely time for Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. That was fascinating. So I hope that everyone out there listening, please don't be shy and feel free to start entering any questions you have into the chat box, which is probably located at the bottom of your screen. Our first question is Edmentum Ed Options Academy accredited in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Yes. In fact, we are SACS accredited. And the great thing about being regionally accredited through SACS, well, SACS is part of a larger organization called Advanced Ed. And Advanced Ed is actually the mother corporation to 3 different regional accreditation agencies. But being regionally accredited in one area, even if we were just in SACS, we would get reciprocity through all the different regional accreditation agencies. So as long as you are regionally accredited by one, you're basically seen as accredited by all. So within the Commonwealth of Virginia, we are accredited through SACS, but we are also, because our original school was created in Virginia, we were also part of private school offerings and on offerings for homeschool students.
Can you explain a little bit more about SAC? I know you sort of went into a little bit, but
yeah, SACS is Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. It is a regionally accredited accreditation agency that covers pretty much the Southeast United States. They basically perform the duties of going to every single school, whether it's a brick and mortar school or it's a virtual school that resides in the South. You know, every school will go through that process, and they become accredited or they can lose their accreditation or not get accreditation. So again, that's what the SACS will do. It's a basic standard of education that every school needs to meet in the United States. And it basically tells you, with a school that is regionally accredited, has a stamp of approval that they meet the standard that education should have in our country. And in fact, to tell you the truth, to even expand on that, pretty much the rest of the world accepts our accreditation agencies as the standard for all. So even SACS and other accreditation agencies actually have what's called trans accreditation programs, where colleges and schools from other countries actually try to get it as well. That's how important it really is.
That's wonderful. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Sure.
Is there any area or region in the U.S. where you are not accredited?
The answer to that would be no, but that's because of reciprocity.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then what is the highest level of math curriculum you offer?
We have AP Calculus.
For the smart ones. I love it.
Yes. So we start out, you know, we actually are a 6 through 12 program. So we start with Math 6 and work all the way up to AP Calculus.
Wonderful. We have someone who is wondering if you can be enrolled in a charter and also do a virtual academy. They are currently in a 2-day-a-week homeschool academy, which is a charter school, and they want to know if they can supplement it with the virtual school on the alternate 3 days.
Absolutely. I mean, again, because a program like ours is a private school, and because we are regionally accredited, any public program must accept our credits. So if you wanted your child to take 1 or 2 courses through Ed Options Academy, or if you find, you know, other school that you would prefer and they're regionally accredited, that school must accept that as a transfer.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. And if they give you a problem, then you can hook them up with the school that you're working with, the private school, the virtual school you're working with, and have their, you know, administration contact. I've done that plenty of times because I've had to tell people, no, sorry, we are accredited through Advanced Ed, SACS, Northwest, the whole entire 9 yards. And then eventually they go, okay.
Oh, that's great. So can a parent customize a curriculum for their child if they're ahead in certain subjects? Like, let's say they're, you know, a year ahead in math and a year ahead in foreign language, but on grade level for everything else.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing that we'll work with you. You know, again, and I didn't mention this as part of guidance services, but transcript review and or understanding and knowing the the courses that homeschoolers will take, that a school like ours will accept that. And so if the student is further advanced in math, generally, let's take ninth grade for example. Generally, students are taking algebra 1 in ninth grade, but your student has already taken geometry. We have no problem with putting them in the next level up. As long as that standard is met, boom, let's move them forward. Now, as far as changing curriculum, that is something that you can work with your teacher with, because our teachers are generally trained, and any good school should do this, to allow the student to advance, maybe even in particular standards. So working with a teacher who's a professional, who has access to other materials and other ways of doing things to really help and enhance what your student is doing, then by all means, that's something you can work with the student with. With the teacher.
That versatility sounds just wonderful.
Yes.
That's awesome. I have a follow-up to the second to last questions about the mix of the charter and the virtual academy. Is there any way within Ed Options Academy to sort of combine the records of the charter school with the virtual school so that a parent can have everything in one place?
That is a great question. And I would say if the student, the simple answer is no. But I hate saying that.
Ooh, yeah, what's the complicated answer? That's what I want to hear.
I know, I'm a solution guy. But the reason that the answer is no is because the student is going to be officially one or the others. Okay, so if they're in the charter school and they're going to claim that student as theirs, they have a particular student information system that's theirs. Our student information system would not talk to theirs. All right. Now, this is getting into some more technical things, but we can't claim that student. They're not going to give us. They're not going to give us. Like, say, for example, you enroll the student in 2 Ed Options courses, but you're the charter schools. The charter school is your homeschool. They're not going to give us information, and we can only, in that situation, as a private school ourselves, we can't give them access to us and see all these other students. It comes down to FERPA laws and privacy.
I was going to say that sounds like it might be like a FERPA or PIPA violation.
Yes, exactly. That's why if you took it with us, you'd have access to the progress. You'll have access to their progress, but the two would not be able to come together, because our school would be more like you're taking us on the side and you're going to transfer.
But as a parent, if the charter were providing that information, and I could pull the information from Ed Options Academy and get a full view of my student's progress, correct?
If we had a partnership now with a charter school, that's a different story. All right. So if Ed Options became partner with that charter school, then there would be a mix, and then you'd be able to see everything.
Are there schools that Ed Options partners with?
Oh my goodness, yes, we are. We are partnered throughout the United States and internationally.
Excellent. And then, sorry, totally new subject. What sort of electives do you offer? Specifically, do you offer driver's ed, and is it accredited if you do?
Oh, that was a great question until you said driver's ed.
We'll start with the first part then.
The electives, yes. We have an unbelievable number of electives. CTE courses, which stands for Career Technical Education courses. So a lot of introductory courses to accounting, to fashion, to business, to nursing. We actually have 2 tracks that could lead to students towards certification in nursing, and being a nursing aide, but also in what's called CompTIA. One exam is software, the other one is hardware, but this would be tracks where students can actually come out of it with not only a diploma, but a certification where they can actually go out and work right away. But that can also lead towards other tracks and such. So that's a huge benefit. Driver's ed, we we had driver's ed, but no one used it. So
Oh,
we kind of got rid of it.
I mean,
Um,
I suppose that's a fair response.
yeah, yeah.
Just considering the time of year it is, do you have anything that supports test prep for college entrance exam if you have a student that is preparing to take a, SAT,
Absolutely.
GLP?
ACT prep, SAT prep. We even have ASVAB prep. So yeah, we have all those test prep courses for students. We even have, and if I can mention this because you're talking about assessments, students who may be behind. We have a program called Exact Path, and within Exact Path we have basically it's English, math courses that students would take, and they would take an assessment to begin with, and then it would prescribe their weaknesses in those two areas, and actually prescribe a course to the student to build up those weaknesses so that they can continue move on in a more successful fashion in both English and math.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Do you also provide standardized tests for state proficiencies if parent needs
We
those?
we only provide the preparation. So to actually go ahead and take the SAT, ACT, you would sign up and go to the typical places. Even, GED, we do, and ASVAB, but that's all controlled by other outside sources. So we'll do the prep, but we don't do the testing.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So this is a two-parter. So how many courses would a student need to take through Ed Options to qualify for a diploma?
That's a fantastic question. We have two tracks. The first track is called our Career and Technical Education track, which is an 18 credit diploma. That would include the cores, English, Math, Science, Social Studies, as well as taking basically a concentration in one of the career technical education areas, and taking 4 full courses with that. The other one is a college-bound track, which is a 21.5 credit diploma, which really pushes the students and prepares them for college entry, making sure that not only are they doing the 4 cores, but they do the two years of foreign language, as well as electives that tend to be more college-bound electives.
And then the second part of that is if my student is already in high school, is it possible to combine credits that they may have already gotten with Ed Options to complete those tracks?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, going both ways, because it's an accreditation situation. As students coming from public schools to Ed Options Academy full-time, we accept all their credits. It's schools that, that a student may be going back to a charter school, public school, whatever it may be, anything they earn from us is going to be accepted by them. Again, all due to that regional accreditation. So
Awesome.
Everything flows back and forth.
And then a follow-up on another earlier question. Is there a list somewhere of schools that are partnered with Ed Options?
Christiane, do we have that on our Ed Options or Edmentum site, that we have a list of partners?
We do have some of our partners, some of our, like Onslow County, we'll have some of that on our site. If you're looking from a specific state that you want to see a list of partners from, let us know. And we can send that information out to you. We can get that and gather it, send it out after the webinar.
Yep.
Awesome.
The other
Thank
thing
you.
too, what I would add to that is edmentum.com. It's not just my email, but if you go to edmentum.com, there is a ton of great information about all different things, and even blogs about education. And if that's one great thing about working for Edmentum, Ed Options Academy is just part of Edmentum. And they have an unbelievable amount of tools virtually. But again, they do education blogs for people who have different ideas. We have some specific things, I believe, for homeschoolers, but also, videos about how our teachers interact with students. We also have a YouTube channel. So there's a lot of information out there. If you want to go to edmentum.com and do some exploring on your own, I suggest you do that.
Great. And then is Ed Options Academy something that can be started anytime, or does it need to, go with the school year?
Another great question.
I
We
know, don't
are,
you?
I know,
I just love the co-op
we have an
members.
intelligent crowd out there.
The best.
We have what's called rolling enrollment. So then that's, again, another beauty of virtual education is we do not have to hold ourselves to any kind of set, spring, fall, summer semesters. We work with a lot of schools that we work within those semesters for them. But as far as we're concerned, any student who's going to directly come to us or any program that wants that kind of rolling enrollment environment, that's what we are. So anytime, can start anywhere. It's absolutely fine with us.
So, clarification, a current homeschooler could transfer into Ed Options Academy right now if they wanted to.
Excuse me. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. And then they would be able to combine their credits and allow rolling in previous courses done from homeschooling on their quest to achieve their diploma.
Yes, that is not a problem. And in fact, if again, that exact path course, sometimes if the parents want to, we would enroll students into that just to see where they are. Now it may have said, and the records may, that you have and shows that they've passed those courses, we're going to accept those. But if you still are not sure where, maybe you have an 8th grader and, are they really going to be ready for Algebra 1? We can test that and to see where they are and where their strengths are, and even count that as a maybe semester, half credit as a course, that prescription itself in math. So that we can prepare the student, for what they need.
Wonderful. And then do students require a certain amount of seat hours to earn a credit for the courses?
Absolutely not. At Options Academy Private School is mastery only. There is no seat time requirement.
And do you guys offer any dual credits?
Another great question, and you can see a pattern. When I say another great question, I'm probably going to say no somewhere along the way.
It's a great stalling tactic.
Yes, it is. Isn't it? Great question. We're working on it. Let's put it that way.
Oh, that's an awesome answer.
Yeah.
Now, can students from other countries enroll in Ed Option Academy and get American diplomas?
Oh, yes. That is a great question.
Isn't that?
This time the answer is yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. In fact, that's why we actually have partnerships overseas now, because a lot of these, what they want is the American diploma.
Yeah.
We're the gold standard. When it comes down, I'm not saying it, I believe Ed Options Academy is the gold standard. I'm talking about American high school diplomas are seen around the world as the gold standard. And the reason why is because parents want their children to get into American universities. So absolutely, we're a private school virtually. That means students from around the world. We actually have a partnership with a company in Kazakhstan, in Central Asia.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep. And Kyrgyzstan, by the way, they're both next to each other. So
awesome.
And right now we're working on deals that would work with Korea, China. We already work in Morocco. So there's a lot of that out there, and it can be done privately as well. So to answer that question, it is definitely yes.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, both Scott and Christiane, on behalf of the co-op and our members. You have been just so generous with your time and expertise. For those of you on the webinar who might be interested in virtual education for your homeschooler, you can learn more about Ed Options Academy by visiting homeschoolbuyerscoop.org. The co-op offers 10 single subject virtual programs, including math and science, foreign language, AP courses, as well as the all-inclusive full-time curriculum, which you can save $250 on if you buy through the co-op. So visit homeschoolbuyerscoop.com to check out Ed Options Academy. Thank you guys, everyone who attended, and as well as our wonderful hosts for your time today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, folks. We really do appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.